Hi and welcome to a new episode, and wow, do we have an interesting topic today. If you're into ultralight hiking and maybe love stoves, you can't have missed out on the world's lightest top-mounted stove out there, the BRS 3000T. It is lightweight, super compact and budget-friendly, but it has been out for a very long time, so the question is it still valid now in 2022? Or is there any better options out there? Well, this and much more is what we are here to find out during this episode, so stay tuned. Even if you are into ultralight hiking or not, I'm sure that most of you have heard about the BRS 3000T stove. But if you haven't, or if you want to refresh your mind about this little stove, let us just quickly go through the basics. The BRS 3000T is a one-piece top-mounted titanium gas stove from China that fits most of the gas canisters out there. It is cheap and very lightweight at only 25 grams. Easy to use, folds down very small, and well, there's a lot of good things to be said about this stove, but not all is good. Nope, not all is good. So the question is now in 2022, whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages and how good it really is to use. Let's find out. The BRS stove can usually be found on Amazon or eBay, and usually at a really low price, and about 150 to 200 Swedish crowns or about $17. So it is a budget-friendly and cheap option, and that is
nice.
Previously on this stove, the delivery times was really long, but now when it is available on your local Amazon, you can have it delivered like in a week or two. So regarding availability and price, it is all thumbs up. Now this is where this little stove really shines. It weighs only 25 grams, and when folded up, it is not more than 5 centimeters long and 3 centimeters in diameter. Compared to the SOTO Amicus, it is making the Amicus looking like a giant. And that makes this little one fit right into any pot, and often also together with the canister if you really want to. I use the ever-new titanium 500 milliliter cup pot, I would say. That's the correct term, right? And in there, if I'm using the BRS, I can put my gas canister. And on top of that, I put my BRS. And on top of that also my mini bic. So like you can see, bam, you have a nice, compact and really lightweight package or kitchen. So regarding size and weight, I would say this is amazing. Well, there's nothing to it really. It is all in one piece, which I find to be great because there's no part that can go missing. So the only thing you do is like turn it upside down, shake down the feet, lock them into place like that. Take your canister, and just like that, you're ready to go. The feet are not very wide when you have unfolded it, so it will probably fit the smaller pots better than the larger ones, just like that. The stove has no, piezo or igniter, I believe to be the right word. So you need a lighter or a fire steel to ignite it, but I find that to be no problem.
It's working just fine.
Finally, the valve is a needle valve system, which is a cheap and easy construction. So I find it to be a little bit hard to control. Either you are on max with a big flame or like nothing. But for what it is, like a small and lightweight cook system, I really like the construction with the restriction to smaller pots and only for boiling water because the lack of control of the valve. So
no cooking.
Now, I have tested out this stove a lot and used it on several hikes during the past 2 years. And if boiling like 400 milliliters of water, which is about 2 cups in my ever-new titanium pot, it usually takes about 4 to 6 minutes in good conditions. So there's nothing wrong with the boiling time using this little fellow, so that is great. But let's come back to that a little bit later on, because in bad weather and stronger winds, it is a completely different story. The fuel efficiency is also good, and in good conditions with this stove consume about 6 grams of fuel to boil 400 milliliters of water, and that is exactly the same amount as my SOTO Amicus. So also here the BRS 3000T performs really good, but that also leads us to the cons, because the two biggest downsides when using this stove is the fuel efficiency and the boiling time in bad conditions. The cons is, well, let's put it this way, there are two major cons and one and one minor, but that can lead to failure. The first downside is the boiling time in bad conditions and in any wind, and then I mean any wind. Due to the small burner head and the big distance between the head to the feet and therefore the pot, it is very sensitive to wind and it's going to take forever to get a boil in those conditions. Number two, because it is very sensitive to wind and because of the longer boiling times you will get, it also has a really bad fuel efficiency. Number three, well, I haven't had any problems with this, but I've heard a lot of people that have melted their feet while using this stove, making them bend and the pot to tip over while using it, making this stove useless. Well, in some cases you can just wait a little bit and then bend the feet back into the right position, but you also risk the feet to break doing that, so if you manage, I think you're just lucky. But that said, this is not a very common thing to happen, but I think it's a downside that you should be aware of. Whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, I would say it's totally up to you to decide. I mean, you can totally live with the wind sensitivity. The only thing you need is to bring some sort of small windscreen to manage that. And also the prolonged boiling time, I think you can live with, as long as it does not consume all your fuel. But the risk of the feet bending while using it is serious, especially if you're out hiking alone or maybe on a long distance hike where it is difficult to find a replacement. If we then talk about alternatives, the weight savings in the end are not that much. If we look at the alternatives like the MSR Pocket Rocket 2 or maybe the SOTO Amicus and many more, the weight on those is usually about 75 to 80 grams, and those are good and reliable stoves. But it is additional 45 to 60 grams. So if you ask me, there's no real contender to the BRS 3000T yet. So if you want the absolute lightest option and the smallest stove out there that is easy to use, I still believe that this is a good alternative also during 2022. But you should be aware of the downsides. Now, what do you think about the BRS stove? Do you have any experience using it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Well, let us all know by leaving a comment. But for now, this is it, and if you liked today's episode, take a look at these two recommendations on my other videos. Also do hit like, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any future content. I hope to see you again next week, but for now, safe hiking and take care. Bye bye.